The Lori Daybell trial is finally underway, and answers that we have been looking for have been dropping left and right, and we're going to talk about some of those in today's video. Hello Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the sofa. That's the old sofa behind me with Mr. Roscoe P. Coltrane on it, holding it down, and my name is Paul. Now what we're going to be doing today, this is going to be a little bit different. If you are following this trial, or if you're familiar with it, the ongoings of the last several years, then you'll know that there is no cameras in the courtroom, and so the trial is underway. This is Lori Daybell. There are numerous charges against her, and the opening statements have taken place. Now, the way that we're going to do this video, if you follow me, then you'll know that we typically kind of look at like news clips or clips from Law and Crime and things of that nature. But we don't have those to look at. So what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at some tweets from someone who has followed this case from the beginning. His name is Justin Lum. I'll put his contact information in the description if you want to follow him for live tweets along the way. And specifically what we're going to do is just look at a few of his tweets about the opening statements. Ones that stood out to me that I was like, oh my gosh, because we haven't known this, we haven't heard a declaration of this for sure until now. And so that's what we'll do. We'll use them as talking points. So let's go ahead and check out the first one. Okay, so on the screen, this is the state who is putting out their their opening statements. Money, power, and well, sex. That's what this case is about. The defendant used money, power, and sex for the promise of those things to get what she wanted. Blake. Now that's one thing we've seen during this, is that this seems to be one of Lori's currencies, right? Her looks, all that kind of stuff, whatever, little power she has or had over men. And we definitely saw that with Chad and whatnot. And I think it went both ways with the two of them. So I thought this was interesting that they came right out with this. These are the things she wanted, and this is what she was going after. And clearly that overrode anything else in her life. Now on to the next. I put up a few of these here. Now this is one that had my mouth on the ground, right? So we'll start with the first one. Blake describes Tamara Daybell, a 49-year-old mother and grandmother, married to Chad Daybell, and Lori wanted him all to herself. Now this is Tammy. This was Chad's late wife. She mysteriously died, and then all of a sudden, poof, Chad and Lori are married, very soon thereafter. Okay, let's continue. So Blake talks about the last known sighting of Tylee. We are now seeing the shallow grave in the Daybell's backyard. I mean, just haunting. And then this one right here. Tylee's DNA was recovered from a pickaxe in a shed on the Daybell property. Now, obviously, the remains of the children were found on the property, so there's that. What I want to know is who else's DNA. Was Chad's on there? Was Alex's on there? Can we tie someone specifically to that? But again, this was just so haunting and surreal to hear this finally playing out, to hear this evidence coming out, to get these visuals. Now moving on, we see he also says that we will also hear how Lori changed the bank account for Tylee's money to come into her own account. Then he says Blake, she continued to collect those benefits to fund her lifestyle. And we did see this evidence. I mean, this took place. I mean, she was using this money, Tylee's money, and that's what was so disgusting about it, obviously, in addition to what they did, right? But it just seemed like there was absolutely no respect, no love, no nothing for life itself. I mean, these were her own children, right? But then to continue to go forward to the money stuff and this and that, I mean, it was like two teenagers just on this spending spree, this lustful spending spree at the cost of the lives of her children. And it's like, I mean, who does this? Now I have several up here for the next one. So LB, this case actually starts in October of 2018 when Lori Vallow met Chad Daybell for the first time. They met at a Preparing a People conference, and she was a fan of his books. Now this, of course, is when they just became smitten with each other. And he continues to say, during this first meeting, the defendant and Chad realized they shared beliefs and thought they had been married in a past life, meant to be together, says Blake. And what's scary is, I mean, how far down the rabbit hole Lori and Chad went with this. Now, Justin continues, Lori and Chad designated themselves as biblical figures named James and Elena. I mean, you cannot make this BS up. Justin continues, defendant will move any obstacles in her way to get what she wants, and she wanted Chad Daybell. Blake continues to talk about the alleged beliefs and how CDLV, this is Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow, rated people light and dark spirits. These teachings evolved into how someone could be so dark that they became a zombie. Now Justin continues, Blake discusses Alex Cox. Alex would do anything for Lori. He quit his job and followed Lori to Rexburg. If Chad and Lori ask it, Alex did it. Now I wanted to include these in here for people who might not be too familiar with this case to kind of just condense it down. Because this is like the center of what was going on here. This light and dark spectrum of you're a zombie, you have to go, that type thing. Alex was like their lapdog, but we see how that ended up for him. I mean, he's no longer alive either. So this whole little circle that was going on of Alex following them around, doing whatever they wanted, them raiding people that were also conveniently people that needed to get out of their way to continue this, psychotic thing that they were on, right? Of course they would designate themselves as leaders. Of course they would do that. These people were in love with each other and in love with the idea of themselves to such a degree that they were willing to take out everyone that they knew and loved. And I shouldn't even say loved, right? Everyone that they knew. Now this one was especially bone-chilling. When Lori and Alex moved to Rexburg, he set a Wi-Fi password as too many kids. Lori responded, funny. I'm just like, are you kidding me? And it's this kind of stuff right here that you're just like, this is absolutely sick. Because you just think, you see this train wreck coming, right? Through rose-colored glasses, right? Like we can see it now. We could try and stop it if we could, right? But of course, that's not how things work. And so you see this going on and you're like, oh my God, poor JJ, poor Tylee. They had no idea what was just absolutely barely in their way. And to see just how it was a joke to these people, right? The very people that would allegedly, we haven't gone through court yet, but I'll give them that, took their lives. Now this is another bone-chilling one for me. On 10/9/19, Tammy, remember this is Chad Daybell's wife, late wife at this point, Tammy came home from work, parked her car, and came face to face with a masked gunman. She heard a couple of pops and the suspect ran off. Blake says Lori made a statement afterwards, he can't do anything right. Now again, Tammy who's going to think that their spouse would do this, right? Who's going to think that their mother would do this? This is not something that crosses most of our minds. And so this is the absolutely heart-wrenching part, is that these people were sitting ducks. Okay, let's continue. Justin tweets, Blake now discusses the welfare check in late November of 2019. Law enforcement made contact with Alex and Chad, and later that day they spoke to Lori, who was not forthcoming. Blake says Lori told police JJ was with friend in Arizona, Melanie Gibb, but she had told Gibb that JJ was now with Kay Woodcock, his grandma. Problem is, Kay called for a welfare check. Kay stares at Lori. I wanted to put that up there for that part right there where Kay stares at Lori, and I'm glad she got that moment. Because let me tell you what, I think so much of this, I think that Lori was so bitter when she found out that Kay ended up getting the money and all that kind of stuff, because Charles, they knew what was, some people saw what was coming down and tried to stop it, and nobody was listening to them, right? And I'm not saying Kay didn't, because Kay called this stuff out. Kay is the one who did the welfare check. She's like, look, something's wrong. Where are the kids? Like, what's going on? And I think Lori got pleasure out of it. And when Lori was first brought back and brought into court, she was snickering at Kay in the courtroom, and it's disgusting. And from what I'm hearing, she's kind of doing the same thing. Like, she's laughing. They're talking about these horrendous things done to her children, and she's out there giggling. And I'm like, my God, take the damn temperature of the room, But that's just the thing that I'm talking about. She just doesn't care, right? She doesn't care. She's off in her own world, and I do not think, nor do I hope, it will go over well with the jury. Okay, now this is a bombshell one, y'all. Okay, so buckle your sofa seatbelts up for this one. Tammy died at the hands of another, and the cause of death was asphyxiation. Y'all. Now, this is the whole thing. So when Tammy died, it was completely just suspect, right? It was like, really? How many people have died around these people? And then when the evidence started coming out more and more about it, it was like, no, I do not believe that she died of natural causes. 100% not. So to hear them make this declaration, I'm like, I'm here for it. Finally, let's get some justice for Tammy, because I do not believe that she died of natural causes. So let's continue. Blake tells us about the locations of phones belonging to Alex and Chad. Alex was located by the Daybell home earlier in the day when Tammy was shot at. I mean, we could have, yes. There you go. Alex's phone was located on the Daybell property close to where Tylee's remains were found after last known sighting. And Lori just looked over at the gallery where the family members are. I mean, can you imagine sitting there and her staring over at you when all this stuff is going on? I mean, what do you do? What do you say? I mean, this would be my question. And I'm sure that I can go back and look at some interviews and we'll do this in the live chat. I'm not sure when that will be. But to look at some interviews to see like what is the reaction when you make eye contact with her, right? This is the reasons why I wish that we could see this in the courtroom, on TV or whatever, just to see and study her body language, because it's so rare, number one, but it's psychologically interesting and heart-wrenching at the same time. Now, be forewarned, this next one is going to talk about some of the injuries to JJ and Tylee. So Justin writes, warning, graphic details. We are shown a photo of JJ's body in red clothing and his arms are duct taped. I mean, I can't imagine seeing these pictures. And then furthermore, we did not see a photo of Tylee. Blake says she did not have her hands when her body was found. I mean, my God. I mean, the depths of depravity. I mean, these are kids, right? I mean, come on. This is what blows my mind. And to think that they were off in Hawaii taking those cringy pictures, playing their little ukuleles, laughing and smirking with an attitude, an entitled attitude about it. Blows my mind. Okay, so now the defense is going to come up and we're going to go over a few of the tweets because there's not much there. Justin writes, Archibald will now tell the perspective of the defense. He starts with background on Lori. She was born in California and has lived in Texas, Hawaii, Arizona, and Idaho. She believes in life after death and that she will see her deceased family again. Now that last sentence took some cojones to say, okay? I was like, I cannot believe they would say that. I shouldn't say that. Whatever you might believe, whatever, that's to each their own, right? But I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know if she's going to the same damn place as her family, right? I hope not. First of all. And secondly, I think that that's part of her just complete, whatever. It's just life. It's someone else's life kind of a thing, this whatever attitude about it. I'll see him again. No respect, if that truly is how she believed. No respect that someone else might believe differently, that it's wrong that she took their lives, that it's wrong that she took them from, being around their loved ones and whatnot here on this plane, on this existence, right? It's disgusting. Justin writes that he forgot to mention the last image shown by prosecution was the hands of Lori and Chad on their wedding day in Hawaii. This image was displayed after some of the graphic images we saw. And what an excellent thing to show up there, because, I mean, again, we need to see that. We need to see, after this horror, that that's what they were doing, that that's what they were okay with, that they were fine with that. They were off in La La Land. Because I just remember thinking when this first went off, and I was like, I think that this is some cult and they're hiding the kids, because you didn't know these bizarre headlines were coming out. And us in the general public, obviously we wouldn't know the inner workings. And so it seemed like they were hiding the kids from some kind of cult they got involved in. We had no idea what was going to come out. And then they gave them that ultimatum, okay, you have to produce the kids on this date. And I was like, you know what, they'll either do it or do something to show. Well, when that came and went, I was like, whoa, okay, this is going to get bad. Well, now, obviously, we know the horrors that took place, and not just with JJ and Tylee, but so many other victims. And so I'm glad they're showing these little wedding pictures, and I would have loved to have known what Lori's face was like when they showed the pictures in court. Was she, twinkle-eyed looking at them? Did she look at them? That type thing. Okay, now we're going to go over the last little tweets here. This is about her alibis. Archibald now brings up Lori's alibis. He says she was in her apartment when JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan died in the apartment of her late brother Alex Cox. Archibald says Lori was with Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, and Chad Daybell. When Tammy Daybell died, Archibald notes Lori was in Hawaii with her niece and friend. Archibald, cases can be solved with evidence or lack of evidence. When there's lack of evidence, the law calls it not guilty. Now, I'll give little Miss Lori this number. This whole little thing right here that she has going on of, well, I wasn't here and I wasn't there and I wasn't here. I mean, she's gotten slippery. Now my personal opinion, of course, is I think that, she's just as guilty as anybody else. And the conspiracy and all this type stuff, right? I think she was in on this. I think she helped orchestrate this, all that type stuff. But again, I wasn't there. I don't know. And I don't know all the evidence. So there's that. That's just my sofa opinion. I'm in no place to give any kind of professional opinion on that, right? So that being said, I'm interested to see how the state is going to frame their argument for conspiracy and those type things. I am very interested to hear the testimony on the stand from people like Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, her niece, people like this who could provide an alibi, because God help Lori if these people get up there and spill the tea and talk about, well, yeah, she was kind of talking about, something wanted to happen to the kids, And I think that we're going to hear stuff like that, right? So, because that's the gray zone with all of this, is the wording, the teachings, the belief systems, all of that stuff. So, that being said, drop hearts in the comment sections for the victims and the survivors and the family members who are going to literally be battling it out in court with this monster. And the shenanigans she's going to probably pull in there with laughter and that kind of a thing and not taking it seriously. It just runs all over me. My eye is twitching over it. I'm sorry. But I can't help it. So I think this is how we'll structure some of these videos. A lot of people have been, well, first of all, if you're following me for the Letitia Stout trial, we're still going to be doing updates on that. We're going to kind of just be going between these two and just, doing some for Lori's case, doing some for these, because these are two major cases we have followed for years, and it's time for justice to come to the surface. So thank you again for watching, and again, drop hearts down in the comment section, and until we gather around my phone that's sitting here and our little friend Roscoe, I'll see you soon.